painters, when they found he's up that tree, they just hauled off and went to dig it. They're going to dig up the tree, scratch it up. Instead, he said it. He seen he was gone anyhow, and he said he decided he'd play his last tune. And said he went to playing the fiddle, and said when he went to playing that fiddle, said them things just cleared the woods. Said he just gone like that.
Them old big cats just took off.
Yeah, when he went to playing the fiddle. Now, I ain't telling you.
He must either played a good tune or he made it squawk awful loud, didn't he?
Just like, yeah. He said they all run. When he went to playing his fiddle, they run. He couldn't stand that racket. I heard her tell about that.
Well, when you was growing up, for your entertainment, I bet you liked to go around to some old people and listen to them tell tales, wasn't it?
Lord have mercy, I reckon I was.
That was the way you was entertained. You didn't have any radio?
No. And back now, the boy on up, not long ago, you might say, just like you say, they come, you know, we had company, they had time to go visit one another. Old people would come like start home, and then we'd go to old people's houses. It's about my daddy and mama's age, you know. Stay till midnight, and you know, maybe be some other family or two there. They'd all flam loose telling big tales. Telling all that, and you know I was interested. And I enjoyed every minute of it, just hearing them tell it.
Was there a fella or two around the country that could tell about fox racing and things that you like to listen to?
No, they never heard no telefox.
Well, I mean, you know, possum racing and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, they tell about their possum hunts and their coon hunts. You know,
coon hunting, yeah.
Back before, back you might say, I'd say 100 years ago, there's plenty of coons here, according to what the old people said. 100 years ago, there's coons here, foxes too, you know.
Who are some of your favorite old people that would tell you tales?
Well, about all of them, I'd hear them talking. They were pretty favorite.
Every one of them was a favorite, wasn't it?
Yeah, I enjoyed them all, you know. About all back then, they'd sit down and talk, and it's just like I'm telling you, I thought they were telling me the truth, you know. They talked, They wasn't bragging, just
talk.
happened.
They didn't mean it to brag, they was just passing along history, wasn't it?
Telling what they had done.
Yeah. And that way they're passing it on down to you and other people of what they had done. That was the way they was keeping a record, wasn't it?
Until maybe then, you know, they'd tell, like my uncle and my daddy's brothers, and talk about it, and they'd tell what their granddaddy had done, you know, back how it was in their time, you know. We on back maybe 50, you might say 150 years from now.
Yeah.
They talk about that. Of course, I was interested. Believed every word I heard.
Well, yeah, that was the way they was passing along their history, wasn't it? They didn't have books to write in.
Figured, you know.
They was just passing their history along.
Yeah, telling the young and what kind of a life it had been before.
I believe you was telling me one of your uncles went kind of western part of the state, McDowell County, didn't it? Was it one of your uncles that went out there?
Yeah, my dad's brother up at McDowell. He lived close to Linville Falls.
You went up there to visit him some, didn't you?
Yeah, I went up there to visit him back.
Is that when you done a little bear hunting or watched them bear hunt?
That was when I was up there. Me and Gib was out there hearing them running, you know, and we went over there just listening to the race. Me and him, we wasn't to say in the race or nothing, but we went just to listen at it. You know.
Is that when that bear come down off the mountain?
That's when he come down. When we went and see. I had never. That's the first time I ever went to the Linville Falls with you. And we was on. We heard them back over this way. I reckon. I don't know which way it was. From where, but we heard them running over on the mountain some way from there. I couldn't tell you here to save my life which way it was. But the way we went I know we went right down the river. He says that's the way they had it. Gib did. He knows all about the mountain, raised there. And he's older than I was. And we went right down the river and not too far below the Linville Falls. He says, now watch over yonder. We may get to see him. Look, he come today. And looked at me like he just laid down and just chugged in that river.
Got up and left out.
Got on down the river, I guess.
I happened to think of something I wanted to ask you. You told me the other day about the socks that you wore. We was talking about sheep at that time, and you tell me the first socks you ever got was made out of wool.
Yeah.
They darned them, or they... How did they make those socks?
Knitted them.
Knitted them.
Had 4 knitting needles. Knitted them just like naturally you put. Old people knit socks. Yeah, they'd shear the sheep and then what they call card the wool out in rolls. I can remember seeing them and remember when they carded and rolled. Then they had a spinning wheel and they'd put it up here and turn that and let it run here till tighten it in and they'd let it run. That's till they, they'd come on, walk on back there, and they'd first from here to you with that, you know, and spin it till they got it just like they wanted. And then they'd go up on and they'd go over a spool like that. And then they'd start back and spinning another one coming out of it.
And then they'd knit your socks to fit your feet, wouldn't it?
Thread. You ball it up, wind it off with a spinning wheel, ball it up, and then you knit it. Ann Reed, that is Albert Reed's mammy. That's all she done, knit socks. He made pipes.
He made pipes?
Yeah.
Smoking pipes?
Yeah.
How did he make them?
Huh?
How did he make them?
She had it in mold, you know. She'd mold it out of mud or a dirt pipe. She'd mold a bowl out of here and out here in the stem and put the hole like that. Get your reed and put your stem in it. Dirt pipe. I had one of them. Got too many and I got hit low. I wouldn't have took $50 that pipe.
Well, I bet not. That is a keepsake, wasn't it?
My daddy smoked it. My daddy had it. But I don't know what one. I just got it low. I never know what one.
You'd grow your own tobacco to smoke and chew, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't know.
Did many people dip snuff back then?
I didn't know what snuff was. Back, I was a kid. I didn't know nothing about no snuff.
It was either chew tobacco or smoke it, wasn't it?
Chew, about everybody smoked. Old women, old people about all smoke and chew. Snuff. I know nothing about that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Young, well, a kid, you might say.
You've chewed tobacco, I guess, about all your life, hadn't you?
Yeah. Smoke. I went smoking when I was 5 years old. I'll tell you what got me to smoking. My daddy, I say, he crippled us like, you know. Come in, Todd, and sit down, fill up his pipe, give it to me, you know, and I'd go dip it up, put a hot embers, you know, to light it. I had to smoke a puff or two to see if it light. And I got habits doing that. Yeah. So I started smoking.
Did you ever get you a pipe of your own, or did you just use your daddy's?
No, after I got smoking, you know, myself, got me a pipe of my own. Well, back then, you know, you'd have 2 or 3. Uncle Stephen down there, he made pipes out of wood. He had wooden pipes. He'd go down on the creek and get these here laurels, you know, in just the right shape, and he'd trip them out. Trim you out a pipe, wooden pipe just as pretty as you'd buy in a mill like that, you know. Come out the root there and take a gimlet. You know what a gimlet is?
No, I don't know what a gimlet is.
A little sort of like a hog, you know, bore a hole with,
Okay, yeah.
and he'd bore the hole into the pipe. A big hog, you know, that bore the bowl out of the pipe.
Uh-huh.
Put him a reed stem in there.
Get him a reed from a bamboo reed, would
Yeah, just plenty of, used to call them pipe stem reeds.
they grow down on the creek or down on?
Down along a swamp or something. They're small, but just in a way they're the same thing, just like the fishing pole reeds.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Only just small. Or some of them would have a joint. You get your stem that long.
Oh yeah. Joints were a lot longer than they are in a fishing pole reed, wouldn't
Yeah. And then if you wanted to stem something like that long or that long, you get you a wire, heat it, you know, and where it jointed here, and burn that out, and you have your stem that long. You know, you want it just a short stem.
it? Did you dry your tobacco pretty dry to put in your pipe to smoke it, or?
Just good and dry, about back then.
Yeah.
Back then. But years later, when I was smoking, I'd parch my tobacco. I put it in the stove, and after I was up grown, you know, and parch it. Get hot, brown him a little, you know, smoke heat.
Tastes better too, I guess, didn't
Yeah.
it? Tell me about that time again. We'll put this on a tape. About that time you drove a team of mules or horses to Elkin and had a load of lumber on. And them fellers went down, it worked here, went down on the lower side of the place and to get a load of shucks. Tell me about that time again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know what you're talking. I went there and took a load of lumber. And Roy Mars, he stayed here. He took the mule that day, and about dinner time, and went down at the pond. That's about where the house was at, where they had the corn shucking in. And loaded on a load of shucks. I went on the elk and took my load of lumber and come back about, I guess it on towards night, 5 o'clock I was there now. And days is getting short. And I come back and Juanita and Ruth both come out there and told me to not put up the mules. You want me to take them down and bring a load of shucks. Said they went and took old Besson Road out of that mule name. Said they went and took old Besson Road down there, and they're still down there. They can't get them to put a load of shucks up there. And I listened to them. I just went on hitching, you know. On hitch, took my harness off, turned old Frank loose. Old Frank was a mule. Every time I come in, I took the harness off of him. He hit the lot there, you know, between the road and the house, and wallered.
Yeah.
Let him waller every time before he put in. Then he'd get up and go right on into his stable.
Yeah.
While I was taking the harness off old Joe, he going in the stable. And that's what I just turned him loose. Come on out here then. I put up Joe, come on out by here and come out the road, come into the house right up there. You know how you come from a barn.
Yeah.
And Miss Johnson, she's in the porch. She said, Press, didn't they tell you what I told them to? I said, they told me to take the mule down and pull out a load of shucks. Yeah, I said, is that what you told them? She said, yeah, that's what I told them. Well, she says, why didn't you take them? I says, Miss Johnson, the team of mules stood down and rested all evening. What use me to take a team that I drove and haul a load of lumber there and back down to pull out a load of shucks? When there's a team standing down there that's been resting all evening.
Yeah.
So I just come on around, hit the road down, went on down there, just an old country road in there. Went on down there, and I crawled up on the wagon. And I said to Ruth, I said, what's your trouble, Ruth? Says, it ain't no trouble to me. It says it's them blame mules, they won't go. I said, crawl on if you want to ride. Or if you don't want to ride, it's all right. But crawl on if you want to ride, and we'll carry these shucks and go to the house. And Ruth said, well, we'll just wait and see how far you ride. Oh, that was good. Come right on in and never said a word to the mule. Just shut my line. Got to hold him like this. Swung between the mules. Never said a word. When I shook him line, then the mule walked off. That's as pretty as I ever had a thing to in my life. And I just come on to the house and come on down. And then going on out there where they carried you, where you were going to put the ship. And of course, it's just like if you'd been gone off to the store somewhere, come into some canyon, you know how the kids, all of them run out there when I drove up, you know. How'd you do this? How'd you do this? And laughing, you know. You just sat there up and pushed on, but first word brought on another. So Roy, he went to cry. He went to crying.
Kind of hurt his feelings, didn't
He went to crying and took off down the road. That time it getting night.
Yeah.
And Bob, he just hadn't come in, but he come in just and told him what happened. He took off down there after. You know, that's when Bob had the first old T model. He took off an old truck and he said, I brought it back. Bob said he had to talk over good to him to get him to come back.
Embarrassed.
And then he told us all when he come back, whatever we done, to never name it to Roy anymore about me going and pulling out a load of shucks where they stood down there all evening.
You just knew how to handle them mules, didn't you? How to handle stock.
Didn't know how to handle them.
Now, when you hauled that load of lumber on that 2-horse wagon from here to Elkin, that was like about 12, 14 miles from here to Elkin, wasn't it?
I guess it is.
That's what we measure by car is 14 miles now.
I guess it is.
And the road is about the same way, or not much further, not much nearer.
Oh.
How many board feet of lumber did you have on that way?
1,000 feet. I carried 1,000 feet of load. Tried to put me on 1,000 every time.
That's a bunch of lumber for a 2-horse wagon, ain't it?
That's right. Of course, it's dry lumber.
Yeah.
Oh, we never hauled one. We'd haul that truck. 1,800 feet's what we hauled the load.
On that old solid rubber tire truck, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1,800 feet. Might get on 2,000, but take on average, we'd average just about 1,800 feet of load.
Was that dry lumber?
Yeah, dry lumber, just like our lumber. See, back then you couldn't sell a green plank. You go to sawmill. I mean, you go in here now, like if you want a set cut down there or something, go in there and cut that and hack it and hit set there for a year before you went to haul on it.
They wouldn't even touch a green stick of lumber, would they?
No, back at that time.
Yeah. And I bet the lumber was a lot better shape back then too than it is now, isn't it?
Yeah. See, they'd hack that lumber and cover the hack, so it wouldn't. In other words, what you sow this summer, next summer you'd haul your lumber.
Yeah.
That's about the way it run back in them days when first started.
And putting up a hack, that would be like go out here and lay down a row of boards, wouldn't it? And put a cross stick in.
In other words, you're sort of like you're going to start a house. You laid your foundation here, across here. You put you down whatever you want for your foundation. Or you can take slab, good straight slab, and lay them down here for your foundation. Lay one at the end, one in the middle, one at the other end, and you start the hacking. Just like that. You might say, here's your foundation right there. You start the hacking on that. Foundation, that'd be your foundation there. Well, every time you put on a run, you come up to an inch.
Yeah.
Up to an inch. By the time you got up yonder, got 10,000 feet, 10,000 feet and a half, why, it'd be sticking out 3 or 4 foot up down at the top.
Uh-huh.
And they'd give it the elevation, for it to drain. And then you cover it over the top so it would drain off.
Yeah.
And then if you put down a run here, like you're hacking, like I say, you put it down about 2 inches crack, leave cracks about 1.5 inches or 2 inches between every plank.
Uh-huh.
And put you down a run, and then you'd put your whatever you have is smallest you had is 6 inches. You put your 6 inch in a cross for a header and strip, what they call strips. One at the foot, one in the middle, and one at the head, just like you had your foundation you laid it on. Across here, we'd run here just about 1 inch over the last run of plank we had, you see, and that's every time, and you see, and that's the reason it just, by the time you get up there, it'd be just sticking away over again.
The lumber actually made a shelter within itself as you went up, didn't it? It sheltered the...
Yeah.
And then when you got up to the very top, you didn't put no more. How would you cover it? With more slabs?
No, we cover with the plank.
Plank.
Break your joints, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Nothing doing, just break your joints up there. Break your joints.
A lot of people now, another thing too, entered my mind I wanted to ask you about. You know, when you showed me how to run them mowing side the other day and everything making hay, people used to stack their hay, didn't they?
Yeah.
Around a stack pole.
Yeah.
Out there in the meadow or wherever they was going to...
Well, they generally just carried it out to the hacked it around stacked it around the hay.
Uh-huh.
Toted it out there and stacked it.
I remember I was a little feller, we used to stack hay and tops where we cut off with the corn.
Yeah.
Corn tops. That part from the ear of corn on up was the tops, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember having to help stack those, and we had a big old pole in the middle.
That's right. But you have a stack pole, they call it.
Uh-huh.
That's like when you get up your wheat after you come to threshing, you'd put you up a stack pole and stack your wheat around it.
Uh-huh.
Stacks of wheat.
And then it could stay out there in the weather and it wouldn't really hurt it, would it?
No, unless it's awful wet spell. I went to the thresh machine, I went with that. I've seen stacks where it's just as green as this yard and even greener all over where it ran and the wheat would come up on the stack.
Well, you just couldn't thrash it, could you?
Yeah, you could thrash it, but it wasn't no count for nothing. That just come up on a feed, you know.
Yeah.
A feed, you could use it for.
Did you used to go around a whole lot and help thrashing machine crews? Did you ever help my grandpa in the thrashing machines years ago?
I helped him some, but I went with the thrashing machine, cut bines, and for about 3 seasons. And first went to going on. I was a fireman. Had a steam engine to pull traction.
Uh-huh.
I fired and run it for 2 seasons thrashing.
You kept the steam up to run that steam tractor, didn't you?
Yeah, and pull it and go from place to place.
Uh-huh.
Steam outfits.
The only steam tractor I believe I can ever remember is the one Levi Trivet had down here, and he kept it in good shape. I seen it 2 years ago, and it was still running.
Yeah.
But he really looked after that machine, didn't he?
Yeah. Or the guy sure really did cut some lumber while he was living.
Who was that?
Levi.
Yeah.
Him and Willie. You know, they sawmill for years and years. I bet he cut more timber and lumber, sawed more than any other man in this state.
The old-timey way, too, right on up, wasn't
it? He sawed that on. He had all kinds of, all wound up with it. Steam and then power units and stuff like that. Now Willie Tribbett and Levi really cut some timber while they was sawmill.
Well, is Willie still living?
Yeah. Yeah, he's buying timber now, they say, for Greg Grove, yeah. you know,
Yeah.
runs that outfit down below Grove.
Yeah. How old is he, you know?
Willie?
Yeah.
I guess he's pretty close to 80 years old.
He's a young fella compared to you, though, ain't
Yeah, he's younger than I am, but I guess he's a old baby. And Levi was younger than him.
Yeah.
I fired the sawmill right down the branch from where I live, the old sawmill, the first one ever I seen in this country. And their daddy saws. Old man Levi. Old man Levi.
Old man Levi. The old Levi.
Yeah. So, the name of it was the kind of
Is what?
the name of the boiler and the engine that I fired was the Altman and Taylor.
Altman and Taylor. That's when you told me earlier on this tape that you had to get up about 4 o'clock in the morning, wasn't it? Or
Yeah.
get the fire going to have the steam up when the crews got in.
Yeah. I got up, you know where I was raised at.
Yeah.
Walk over on Bill Farm and have it. But they lied. Old man Levi now from across the creek, you don't know where his place is, I don't guess, but you know where Pinckney live.
Yeah.
Pinckney Bridge, they call it.
Yeah.
But Levi and Willie and them was raised right down the creek. Another side, another way, I guess you get a little closer. You go out here by the Holcomb Bridge down that way, toward Dash Gates, you know that road?
Yeah.
Well, just right over across the creek before you get down to the creek, just across the creek up on top of the hill, that's where old man Levi lived.
Uh-huh.
That's the old Levi home place. They still own the rig. But what I was going to tell you, and it's winter time and cold, and sometimes there's smoke. That old man get up there, and a lot of times he just about get there before I did. We just be coming here me and argue of a morning and walk from down there. That old man, and get up and wade that creek.
He had a long walk to come all the way up there, didn't he?
That's where he woke from, and he'd get there just
that's 3 or 4
about
miles.
good daylight.
That's 3 or 4
good
miles.
Daylight, old man Levi'd be there.
What it, Fred?
Come in there and his britches leg would be froze as stiff as anything. That's a Levi.
You know about how old he was at that time?
Well, I tell you the truth about it. I was just a young fellow then. I thought he was an old man. I thought he was about 60 or 75 years old man. I didn't know he was. But I guess since I growed on up and knowed him on, my guess he's about 50 years old then.
Yeah. Tough old fella though, wasn't he?
Tough. Thought he was. And found dead in the woods with an armful of bark, the way he found him.
With an armful of bark.
Yeah, he went out. There's old man Johnny Patterson down there, and he gone out to get a turn of bark, cook, you know, cook with, and never come in. They went to hunt him, and they found him sitting up against a tree. They said with his armful of bark, dead.
Yeah. Heart attack, I guess. He just
it was,
stroke or something.
What happened?
But he was using bark to cook with at the stove.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah, he had his cooking, I guess. In other words, he might have used the fireplace to
Yeah.
cooking.
Was he living kind of by himself when he was found dead, or was his wife still alive?
He was staying with old man John Patterson, Pig Patterson's daddy.
Yeah.
Old man John, you know, living by himself, and Levi staying with him.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, he was just staying there waiting on old man Johnny. He was old man, you know, John Patterson was old man too. And he was just staying there, waiting, doing his cooking, stuff like that. When he died. And that sawmill down there, place of having dust changed like you got now at sawmill. they had, the dust belt was made out of this stuff like you used to buy when I was a boy and going up to make back bands out of, you know, about a 4 inch, 3 or 4 inches wide. You see that back band stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Heavy denim type stuff.
Yeah, that's what carried the sawdust out on the sawdust pile. That's all the back band stuff. That's all they had on horses when I was growing up. Made them. Didn't have harness like they had like all up grown. They just had a set of hame traces and one of them for a back band. That's the way harness was on a horse. Yep.
If you don't mind, you start again right now. When you was a boy, they did what?
Well, they had copper steels and they'd run out what they call singling. They'd single it off. And then get enough for another steel full and they'd pour it back and run that off and run it through charcoal. To take what they claimed was the body greases in that. And as the dubbing, that's when they run off and got their good liquor.
Well, how did they? You remember how they set up a still back years ago? How did they set one up? I mean, to go out here to make good liquor.
With the copper steel?
Yeah. How did they set it up? What did they do?
Well, they built them a furnace, you know, like a steel. It's on what size steel, you know, some of them 150, 100 gallon, 50 gallon, no. But back in the old times when they run, I can remember when they run government liquor, you know. Before they get a law, they made liquor. I hauled apples. My daddy hauled apples up here at Shores, where Shores lived, and down there at Uncle Stephen. Last year at the Maze, according to law. Well, they'd build them a furnace, you know, set the steel up there, and then they'd build up around that steel, you know, and that fire come around here, come out like this, went around like this, and come back here like this, and up there in a furnace. And have the steel sort of like you would a licer bar on a furnace, you know. A way on is up, what I'd call an upright out furnace. Put in the furnace, you know. And they had here on the bottom of this steel, come through this wall. Here was the arm to that steel. They called it the arm. And that's where you connected up your worm to catch your liquor. And you hear this arm. Or I know that's where you empty it till, I mean. And they put that cap on it, had a cap to it up on that cap, you know, and that's where they connected your worm to that cap. Come on over here and into the water. I guess it's 25. The worm would be 25 or 30, maybe 40 feet long back then when they made it.
Yeah.
But it was in a car just like that. It wasn't out just a straight pipe it run. It was a car. It hit down here, you know, in a barrel, a box or something like that, a barrel down here, where the water's running in there and running out all the time in the sea. Right over here is where you catch your singling, they call it. Come through, the worm come out, or down through that, come all around and all around here, and then went out over on ours where you catch your liquor. As it made, as you see, that's what cooled it, made liquor out of it. It steamed till it hit that water, you know, and then it went to being just like water.
Well, now, when they say mash boxes, well, I always heard it called mash boxes. What would they do? Board up a bunch of boxes out here with boards and put their mash in it?
Well, now
Let it,
back in them times, they had what they call hockster mill. Big old thing.
hogs.
So
That's a heck of a name. I can't even pronounce it myself.
now was it
Hogs heads, the big old barrels.
big old tub, where they put their mash in to work off to make their liquor, in boxes too. But now I never see. There's always something like that when it's back then. After they got the blockade and stuff like that, they'd put boxes. They make boxes. You carry your lumber and make you a box where you're going to steal, where all them hocksters and now they call them. It's a great big old thing. There's a thing where it was, some of them would hold 25 bushel, maybe more. They're big at the top, out like this, little at the bottom, and they come out like this, about a foot and a half or 2 foot wide at the top, and it wouldn't be at the bottom. That's where they put the pumice. That's where they work their pumice, to make.
Well, say they're going to make corn liquor, they would grind their corn, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They'd shell their corn off of the cob.
And grind it. Just
Have
like
it ground up.
good and fine, just like you're going to eat it, good meal.
Yeah. And then they would mix that, pour that in that big old boxes, and put water in it, wouldn't
Well, they would scald that meal, they'd cook it. They'd cook that meal.
before they ever
That's the first thing you done is cook their meal.
cook the meal?
Yeah, cook it. And let it stay there a day or two, just cook. Of course, they cook it with hot water.
Yeah.
And they let it stay there. And 2 or 3 days, they take that out and put it in something else and what they call break their mash. Break that up, just tear it all to pieces, just make it like you're making slop for a hog or something.
Yeah.
And put it over there and let it stay there till it works. When it worked off and got ready at a certain stage, then they put it in steel and run it up.
And cook it, and then put it in that steel, and then they would put the fire in that. And the steam that come off of that, that's what they would catch, and that's when it turned back into water. That'd be whiskey, wouldn't it?
Yeah. See, they break them mashes and then they fill up that steel. As they break the mashes, they fill it up with a beer. They call it the beer. They fill up that steel with that, and then they'd run that till it got down to where it wouldn't bead like it did, And then they'd run on maybe 2 or 3 gallons of what they call backing. Set them over one side. Well, they'd just pull this plug here in this arm, and let that slop going out down the banks or whichever way they wanted to go, and clean out that steel good and clean, and then fill it up again.
Cook the next batch, wouldn't it?
Make it on.
On a small steel, how many gallons of liquor could they make a day, you reckon, when there's a running heavy?
They would. I just couldn't hardly tell you just how much they'd make in a day. Don't know too much about just what they'd make.
Yeah.
Make a pretty good bunch, so in a small steel.